This is the second half of the Ref Show, resuming with that Chelsea defeat, the latest one, 3-1 to Liverpool on Saturday, with Brian Deane and Keith Hackett. And two talking points, really: the festering ill feeling between that football club and manager and referees, who he's seeking to make a scapegoat for Chelsea's defeats, you would think, and why nothing's been done at top level about it. And also the reaction by Chelsea players to Lucas not receiving a second yellow card. First of all, can this be nipped in the bud, all of this?
I think that the powers that be, as I said last week, need to have a summit meeting with Jose Mourinho to actually see and act what is his beef, and if need be, look at every decision that referees have made that he is complaining about and give him some answers. So I think off the field, some work needs to be done.
You said this last week, it wasn't acted upon. We'll see if it is. The business about trying to get another player yellow carded or red carded generally. We saw this from Mourinho, led it on the touchline, and players. Your reaction to that, Brian?
I think it's sad, really. I think, you know, it's hard enough when you're playing to you know, to be just getting on with the game without having to think about the fact that, you know, any little touch is going to be, there's going to be a reaction, you know, and somebody's trying to get you sent off. It spoils the flow of the game, and you know, we're looking at controversies now that don't affect football creeping in.
It's not just Chelsea, to be fair. We're not just having a go at them here. It's a trend, isn't it, Keith? Yeah,
it's a trend that's unacceptable. I mean, the Premier League have spent a lot of money with get on with the game, get on with the referee, get on with each other, promoting the idea that everybody does get on with each other, when in fact they don't on the field of play. And it makes life difficult for the referee, because in some instances he would like to manage and not give a yellow card, but he comes under pressure and he needs to reinsert his authority, and he does that by showing a yellow card. So the players themselves, the clubs as a whole, need to sort of sit down and say, look, how can we improve that aspect of players' behaviour? I mean, acts of simulation are very difficult sometimes for the referee to pick up and to punish. But as I've said in the past to all the managers, look, you win some, you lose some, and you're going to get players cautioned for simulation when slow-mo and replays will show that you should have had a penalty kick. If you can avoid it, so much the better.
Well, let's breeze through some good performances, because there were some again, and the standard's certainly been improved this season. Less controversy. Craig Pawson with the South Coast derby, a rare one, Southampton 2, Bournemouth 0. Very accomplished performance, said Rob Harris on You Are the Ref's ref cam. So well done. There was a sending off that was correct. Interestingly, in that game, one of the assistants was especially busy, Andy Halliday, because Saints had 80% of the possession in the first half, and there was Halliday sort of acting on that. And then he had Bournemouth in the second half having 75%. So he had a busy game. The other assistant had very little to do.
That sometimes happens, but it's far better to be busy than suddenly having to come up with a big decision, having sort of been static or, if you like, non-involved in the game for long periods.
Well, Halliday did well. He was also given a big tick on RefCam, and also further ones of approval for Andre Mariner, I think. Everton 6, Sunderland 2. Mike Jones again, Crystal Palace 0, Manchester United 0. I know he's making Keith eat his words a little bit here.
I was the one that said he should have been dropped down to Championship this season. And in fact, he's proved me wrong. A lot of this is about increased fitness levels on the field of play, or should I say, increased work rate on the field of play.
Well done, Mike Jones. Yeah. Roger Rees, steady as you go. He's been very consistent this season. Yes. Newcastle 0, Stoke 0. And Keith Stroud. You were looking for him to be back in the Premier League. He's back there. Watford's victory at home to West Ham by 2-0. A red card in that, and quite correct. James
correct with the red card. I mean, he had no option, but he was in a great position to see it and acted and sold the decision brilliantly. Give him another game. Right. Just keep giving him the appointments, and he's got the experience. He's doing well. He's in form. So appoint him.
For various reasons, we've left Kevin Friend to the end. This was Arsenal's 3-0 win at Swansea. One of those reasons, I feel, is a very good reason. Arsenal's second goal, there was Swansea looking for a foul on the goalkeeper, Fabianski, and no matter how many times you looked at it, didn't seem to be one there, did there, Brian?
No, it was a fantastic decision from the referee, because we've seen it too often where goalkeepers have too much protection. I mean, the truth of the matter was he got caught on his line, and Koscielny was where he was. That's a perfect goal to me.
I'd have expected you as a striker to say that, Brian, but as a serious point, I'm with you in that I've always believed, and have believed for a long, long time, that goalkeepers are overprotected. Keith, what do you say to that?
Well, remember, the law protects them. The law protects them. If a goalkeeper's got both feet off the floor, then he can't be charged. And I think we've sometimes failed to forget that. However, I go along with Kevin Friend and say, right, give the goal. And it's good on him, because I think he's slowly building his confidence back, Kevin Friend, and managed the game very effectively. But there are on occasions, and this is where the inconsistency comes, where that would be penalised because, as you say, the overprotection of a goalkeeper.
All right, so we're agreed on that finally. We've reached some kind of compromise on that. Kevin Friend had one very difficult call to make when it was 0-0 in that game, with Swansea claiming a penalty. The ball was drilled at the Arsenal wall, and there was Mertesacker making himself larger.
Yeah.
Should have been a penalty?
I think so, yeah. Definitely.
I mean, there's no question that we say when we've marched the 10 yards out, that we say to him, keep your arms out of the way. His arms were not in a natural position. He was making himself wider. Kevin should have pointed to the spot.
But in real time, that's very difficult to see, isn't it? It's very difficult to see what part of the anatomy the ball has hit. Yeah. Is it?
I think that an experienced referee is not looking at the ball. He's actually looking at the outcome. So for me, yeah, he should have seen it.
He's actually moved towards it with his elbow, hasn't he? So.
Yeah.
So praise and a little bit of criticism there for Kevin Friend. The card count seems to be down in the Premier League this season. You look for an average of 3 to 4 per game, ideally, and from your days. What is it?
Well, I think the big thing is that referees are promoting themselves in a more positive manner because they're fitter, and therefore they're getting in the right positions. And I think the appointment process seems to be working much better than it did last year. Yeah. And I think as a result, those referees that are in form are getting the appointments. Yeah. Let's hope that this week's appointments will have Clattenburg out again, Dean out again. So I think that these referees that are in form are given games. Stroud, no reason why he shouldn't get another game. And therefore, that all helps that form, if you like, to avoid the need for yellow cards.
Well, the average was 4 across the first 9 games of the Premier League programme, 36 in 9 games. There were a couple of straight reds as well on top of that, but the card average about 4. So,
it should be less.
Now then, Brian, if you're not happy with a referee and his team of match officials, what about simply locking them in the stadium after the game and just barricading the doors and not letting them out? Do you think that's a reasonable response to dissatisfaction, do you think?
Totally agree.
Well, let me tell you, looking a bit puzzled, if you haven't seen it, this actually happened. Trabzonspor, in their stadium, the president of the club there in Turkey did exactly that. He barricaded the referee and his assistants and held them captive after they'd failed to award the home team a late penalty in a 2-2 draw. The Turkish Federation, the Football Federation, are investigating.
Well, I mean, they should lock the owner of the club up. He's totally unreasonable. However, they may just have done it for the safety of the referee himself.
Is that what they're going to argue?
Well, I think they'll say that we were concerned about the referee going out of the stadium, and therefore we decided we'll hold him until it gets a little bit safe. Because things do get hot in Turkey. I've been to that particular ground. It's quite vociferous, the crowd, but it's a lovely city. But my memories of that was the hotel was situated next to the mosque, so I was up very early in the morning as the imam started calling everyone to prayer.
The early morning call. Yeah. Oh, you could be right. They're treating the match officials a bit like away supporters then, because they're penned in often and they're not allowed to.
Sounds like worse, because the away supporters would have been gone by now.
Yeah, they would, wouldn't they? Yeah. I wonder if
about the Barnsley fan.
Oh, the Barnsley fan went to the toilet at half-time of the recent game, and he was still there hours later, wasn't he? He couldn't. He fell asleep. He fell asleep and had to be rescued.
By the fire brigade, by all accounts.
Yeah, I think he had a better time sleeping there than the fans did in the game, because they lost the game, didn't they? I thought the cheering would have woken him up, wouldn't it, in the second half?
Well, he probably had that much to drink that he was inebriated to the point where he didn't hear anybody or anything.
Right, okay, this is a wonderful game, wonderful stories, and even sometimes a laugh or two with and about referees. So thank you for your company on the Ref Show, and thanks to Brian and thanks to Keith. Do rejoin us next week. We'll see you then. Bye.